of economic and cultural freedom and has been a light to the world. But by the 1960s, really corrupt interest began to fully dominate the D.C. machine and the U.S. empire. And now the U.S. empire is being folded into the European Union empire, the Asia-Pacific empire, that is controlled by a handful, well, 5 large banks. It was 6. Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, a consortium of EU, British banks that form into one, combined, the City of London, Frankfurt, Geneva, Tel Aviv, New York. And these combines run the drugs, launder the money, run almost all organized crime, use the police to enforce on the ground the low-level crime. Zbigniew Brzezinski's written 5 books that I've read where he openly admits all this. That's why when I was a kid, my dad would explain, I just read this book by Zbigniew Brzezinski, The Technotronic Age. In this book, son, and you know, he works for the president, Jimmy Carter. This is when I'm like 5 years old. And admits that the government controls organized crime. And that the government's controlled by a combine of large banks. I was like 4 years old, 5 years old being told this. And then a decade later, I read the book. That's what's so frustrating is they all write books saying what they're doing. You read books Brzezinski wrote in the 70s and 80s, and it all came true. They're running it. They plan to bring in a world government and to make almost everybody incredibly poor and then social engineer us through Agenda 21 to tell us how to wipe our butts. For real. How to raise our children, how to do everything. There's never been slavery like this even thought up. Now it's manifesting, and that's okay because blacks and whites need to kill each other with hammers. That's okay. The NFL's on tonight. That's okay. Family Guy's coming up. And listen, nothing against the NFL or Family Guy. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a reality check. The president gets up there and says, I changed the law to legalize you. Then his press secretary comes out and says, he didn't really mean that. Well, it doesn't matter. That's what they're doing. And here's the big news. The Republican leadership, Mitch McConnell in the Senate, John Boehner Boehner, are raping the Constitution, Bill of Rights, common sense, due process, and discriminating against American taxpayers who are going to fit the bill now for tens upon tens of millions more people. And now we're not just getting some of the hardworking people out of Mexico. I mean, there are people wearing 6X underwear. They had about 40-something thousand pairs of them. People are showing up in buses and planes, ready for dialysis, ready for their hearts. It's all meant to bankrupt the system. As Ezekiel Emanuel said on Fox News, we're going to bankrupt it, you bet. After the law passed, you bet the plan was to bankrupt it, and you bet there's death panels, and you're not going to get medical treatment after 75, period. And Bill Gates came out and said, yeah, it's a death panel. We got that law passed, and the Republicans aren't going to repeal a dime of it. And the Republicans are going to stand by and let the president become a dictator because it's the office they want to be dictatorial so they can pass the buck into the future and have an imperial presidency, which all declining countries end up going from representative government to a mob rule that then demands a Caesar, a king, a Führer, a leader. Ein Volk, ein Reich, ein Führer. One collectivist, welfare, dumbed down, fluoride head, flu shot, public. Ein Volk. One North American Union merged lawlessly under banker control. Ein Reich. And then one leader, finally, over the whole world. Ein Führer. And this Führer is a eugenics king with all the genetic engineering and all the plagues of the earth poured out like revelation. A poison cup is now falling. Slow motion. Will it hit the table in a year, 10 years, 20 years? The truth is the cup already hit the table, and now the bile, the stinking, festering evil is just now beginning to fly out of the cup, and the first drop is hitting. And wars are starting all over the planet, and disease is spreading all over the planet, and families are breaking down everywhere, and mental illness is just rampantly exploding. And the public is in a trance in the West, disassociating themselves with reality, playing on their iPads and staring into diversions and distractions. As the system sells the idea of believe whatever you want, believe whatever reality you want, you are whoever you want to be. Become a mentally ill, narcissistic person. Join with the system. Just decide you're a winner by choosing to go along. Manifest whatever you want by just believing it. That isn't how things work. You have to manifest in your mind something good you want to build, and then it has to be attainable, and you have to go for it. And then you have a shot at it. Be it good or evil. I think of trying to do something good. I'm an example of the American dream, this whole media operation. But it didn't come out of some magic cookbook. It didn't come out of The Secret. It came out of study and facing reality and facing the nightmares so that I could save what was good for myself and my family, and hopefully save it for you, and you can save it for me, because we're all in this together. Instead, we have these larcenous, wicked, evil globalists who would pass Obamacare that raises taxes on the poorest people, that cuts their hours, and that destroys the future of their health care and gets rid of real charity care and gets rid of the Hippocratic oath of Hippocrates and creates death panels that they're now using in the VA. You think, oh, but it's the minorities against the whites and the police. Oh, yeah. And then people actually start forming up into those ranks. But that is only one level of the manifestation. Above it, outside the box, the globalists are manipulating the whole show. And the minute you pull out of that box, you won't have my view. You'll have a different perspective, different life experiences, different view. But it'll be a very similar thing you see to what I'm seeing. It's like viewing the Grand Canyon from one side or the other, or one end to the other. It's still the Grand Canyon. I'm not in a cave down on the bottom of the Grand Canyon looking at cave bugs, thinking that's the whole universe. I'm outside, up on the rim, looking down. And by the way, there's not just a canyon. There's a plain all around me, and there's stars at night. And a big raven sitting in the tree. See, I want you to come out of the cave. Come out of the cave. There's a whole nother universe out here. And then you'll notice that's just another box. And then above that, another box. And I want my progeny, whether it be the next generation or 20 down the road, to be 100 boxes past me. I love them. I love you. I love your children. Your children, if we can stop the globalists, are going to merge with my children. Look at the blessings of God, how heavy that is. And they're going to travel space and the dimensions together. They're going to become something we can't even imagine if we can stop evil, wicked, anti-human globalists from vandalizing this treasure that we live on. And notice everything they do. They're going to save the environment by taking our rights away. They're the ones destroying it. They're going to fight racism. They're the ones pushing it constantly. You want to end racism, just everybody go to a barbecue together. But see, you can't do that because they've put out gangster thuggism into the cultures so that everybody's scared. It's so easy to do evil, folks. It's hard to do good, but when you do good, it's a million times better. And then it grows on its own. The truth doesn't have to yell and scream. It's just there, and the people want it. And it's strong, and it's deep, and it's pure. My job is to get people out of their coma so they can see the prima facie on its face, out in the open, hidden in plain view, hiding in plain sight, veritas, the Latin word for truth. Seek the truth, live the truth, love the truth, and it is everything. It's the knowledge of good, the knowledge of scams and of fraud and of mental illness and delusion and of imagining you're something you're not.